Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and I have two very special guests with me today. I have John Jasremski and Rob Recchione. How you doing, guys?
What's up? What's going on?
Doing good.
Boys, it's a pleasure to be on. There's a lot cooking right now. It's Jet Dolphin week. You got the Mets playing in the wild card game this weekend. Yankees start up on Tuesday. And the Giants are 3-1. There's a lot buzzing. Fellas.
Look at that. You know, it's a great time to be a New York fan right now. So, but before we get into all that, I just wanted to get the format of the show just out of the way real quick. So let me just ask you this question real quick, JJ. The first question that I ask everybody that comes on my show is, tell me the beginning of your blank story, meaning where you grew up, where you were born and raised, and what was your experience like. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your Staten Island story, the beginning.
Yeah, I grew up on Staten Island, New York, and I think if you grow up in one of the boroughs or you grow up in any of the surrounding areas, the New York sports landscape is kind of all over the place. You can't avoid it in any way. So for me, you know, you're growing up, you're playing sports, you develop like a passion and a love for what you do. So it's the idea for me of watching those 90s Yankees teams I grew up with, watching my beloved Miami Dolphins who are in the playoffs every year. Like that sense of community is something that you have if you live on Staten Island, New York. And it's the idea of going back and forth with your buddies, talking all sorts of shit. Like that's what you live for. That's kind of like what has developed me into being the sort of persona I am today. It's a lot of those backyard arguments that you're having for years. You just carry them onto a platform with a microphone and kind of take it from there.
Right. Now, the interesting thing is that I was talking about this with Rob earlier. You're from Staten Island, and it seems like there also is a plethora of Jet fans out there. I mean, we already know the basics ones, like the popular ones, like Kenny in Staten Island, Ira in Staten Island, so on and so forth. So how was it more or less that you became a Dolphin fan? Like, what is it about the Dolphins that gravitated to you more than any of the other New York football teams?
Well, let's remember, when I'm growing up, the Jets sucked. We're talking Kotite Jets, Homer Jets, awful. Then you had the Giants, boring. Dave Brown, Danny Cannell. So for me, exactly. So like the idea of the Dolphins were a fun team. It was the end of Dan Marino's run. Cool uniforms, Ace Ventura. I was sold. I mean, I was a young, impressionable kid. And I was sold, and that's it. Like, for me, once that decision is made, Jason, there's no, like, turning back from that. You know what I mean? Like, that's your team.
I get it because, you know, you realize how many times I could turn back being a Knicks fan, but here I am still as a Knicks fan. But and especially with the Ewing years and John Starks years, that's what really set it off for me at that time. And but at least the common denominator between the three of us is the Yankees, at least.
Yes, and I think we're pretty excited for what's coming next week. And it's always fun when you know you have game one of a division series in your building and you're starting off the postseason that way. The Yankees haven't had that the last couple of years. So the idea that there's no wild card, there's no stress this weekend, the Yankees playing on Tuesday, you could kind of ease your way into a series is nice.
I was just saying with Jason before how this is the first year that the Yankees don't have to play in like one game wild card do or die game, and they can just rest and let it play out and get into the divisional series with a couple days rest under their belt.
Exactly. And, you know, now as far as the Mets go, I mean, they just choked away the division. So that really puts them against the wall right now.
Big time. And they got nobody to blame but themselves. You know, it's crazy thinking about a team that was in first place for basically 95% of the season. They win 100 games, and yet you go into the postseason with like an unfulfilling, unsatisfying type feeling. Like, let's put it this way, guys. If you told a Mets fan at the beginning of the year the Mets would go and win 100 games and they'd be in a wild card round, I think a lot of Mets fans would be like, damn, that's a great season. I feel good about that. There's nothing to complain about. But when you're in first place all year and the weekend in Atlanta kind of goes the way that it went, yeah, there's no real silver lining aside from, well, you better beat the Padres, and then let's see what the Mets can do against the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Right. It looks like we just lost Rob there, but we'll get him back in a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm in total lockstep with you. I mean, I can't imagine any other Met fan that I know personally that's really happy about the the position that they're in. But this just seems like it's typical Mets. I mean, that's no other way to put it. It's just typical Mets, and it doesn't matter it doesn't seem like it doesn't matter who the owner is, who the manager is, whatever the roster is. It's just something that always keeps biting him in the ass. And right now,
for sure. And look, we'll see if it's different come postseason time. Mm-hmm. They still, on the surface, Jason, look like a team that should win a first-round series. I know they haven't hit you, Darvish. I know Machado and Soto are Seri. You're playing all three of these games at home. The Mets should not be getting bounced from the postseason in this wild card round under no set of circumstances.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. But what are you expecting as far as the Yankees go? Because I got to tell you, one thing that really scares me is the Houston Astros. I mean, they're showing no signs of slowing down, especially in the AL.
Well, listen, the Astros deserve to be the favorites. They have Verlander. They have owned the Yankees in any game that has mattered in the postseason. Mm-hmm. But before, Jason, we're talking about the Yankees and the Astros, the Yankees got to get past whoever they're playing in the division series. And much like the Mets in the wild card round, they're going to be favored. They're going to be expected to win. I would argue slightly that Tampa would be a little bit trickier than a team like Cleveland because of the history of playing in a division. Tampa beat the Yankees in the playoffs a few years ago. The Yankees don't play well in the Trop, and Tampa played well against the Yanks second half of the year. But if you're giving me a choice, I'd take Cleveland. Both teams could be tricky, but no excuses for the Yankees. They cannot lose to one of those teams. You want to tell me again they lose to the Astros because the Astros are better? Fine. I'm not going to be happy with that, but at least you understand you're playing a team that is better than you. Cleveland and the Rays are not better than the Yankees. You have to win that series.
Absolutely have to.
Absolutely.
Win that. Now, JJ, real quick question. Would you rather go with DJ LeMahieu at third base or Donaldson? One of them is going to have to sit the bench, right? If you go with Cabrera, Bader, and Judge in the outfield with Stanton DH.
Well, they're not going to put Stanton in the outfield. I don't think they feel like his lower body is where it needs to be. And listen, Stanton is now hitting again. He homered in his last 3 games. Fantastic. Get him ready. Let's see him game 1 of the postseason. I would go with DJ LeMahieu in game 1. But, guys, I got to be perfectly honest with DJ. I have no idea if he's right. So it's the sort of thing where it's day by day, where you might watch him in game 1. He's 0 for 5. He's grounding out left and right, where you say, you know what, in game 2, I'm going to go to Josh Donaldson. I lean LeMahieu. Let's put it this way. I don't think it's a certainty one way or the other, and I would fully expect the Yankees will play matchups with LeMahieu being compromised and Donaldson coming off a down year. They are going to play matchups with those two guys. There's no doubt.
Now, it was good to see DJ get the 2 singles at least yesterday. I mean, it showed that he maybe can start hitting the ball a little bit. But Donaldson definitely gives you the better defense at third base, for sure.
Yeah, I don't worry about either guy's glove, to be perfectly honest with you. I think they'll both be fine at third base. The amazing thing for me is the emergence of Oswaldo Cabrera. And look, the Yankees traded for Andrew Benintendi. Benintendi was really starting to hit for the Yankees before he ended up fracturing his wrist. And I can't see a world where he's impacting the team in the division series. Now, you want to tell me a couple of weeks from now, the Yankees are playing the Astros, that might be the perfect time to bring him back, knowing how right-handed heavy the Astros pitching may be. Yeah, you could sell me on that. Maybe Oswaldo Cabrera cools off. But in the division series, you ride the hot hand. Let Benintendi get right, and Oswaldo Cabrera should be your left fielder.
He brings so much to the team. He just brings that spark, everything, offense, defense. He just has that it factor. Oswaldo, he's great. He's been awesome, and Bader's been good too.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have guys that they could pinch hit for late in games. Carpenter is one. If they activate Benintendi, he's another. And the guys you're going to pinch hit for, let's be honest, it's Trevino, it's IKF. And then you're also looking at maybe Bader in a tough matchup where he's against the righty. Maybe that's when you burn Carpenter. Or maybe if Benintendi could come back, that's when Benintendi has an opportunity to play. But the Yankee bench that was, let's be real, non-existent for all of August and a good chunk of September, now it looks like they will have a legitimate bench finally going into the postseason.
Is Hicks going to be on this postseason roster?
I think he will be for the division series, guys. I think in the championship series, if they make it,
that doesn't make me feel good about it. But
let's be honest about this.
You better never see the field. Never.
We don't like Hicks. We don't want to see him in any big at bat. But as far as a backup outfielder, where are the Yankees going?
Right. He has to.
If Benintendi's not back, they don't have a backup outfielder. So they would put him on the roster. Now, Andrew Benintendi's good to go. Probably not division series. Let's say championship series. That's when Hicks is off the roster. Because then Benintendi is a guy who could go and play, and then maybe Bader sits or Wilder sits, whatever the case may be. Division series, yes. I would say championship series, no.
Yeah.
Clay Holmes going to be ready for this division series?
I hope so. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you the full tilt detail, but I hope so.
Right. Well, switching gears here a little bit, let's talk about the upcoming game coming up this week at MetLife Stadium, the Jets and the Dolphins. So we have a little interesting thing going on right now where you have the Jets that just came off a great win against Pittsburgh. They're now 2-2, the first time they've been 500 in God knows how long. And then you have the Dolphins who are red hot right now, but there's also this controversy going on with Tua Tagovailoa and the whole medical staff and the concussion and everything, and you have Teddy Bridgewater. But also another thing that me and Rob were also discussing earlier is that there's a lot of familiarity with this coaching staff. I mean, everybody essentially came from the Shanahan tree in San Francisco. You had Saleh, who was the defensive coordinator. He knows all about Mike McDaniel and his scheme. I'm sure that Mike McDaniel knows everything about Robert Sala's scheme. And then you have LaFleur. And the real X factor also, as far as the Jets go on the defensive side, is Jeff Ulbrich. So I don't know. Like, I love the momentum that the Jets are bringing this game, but you never know. They haven't won a game so far, in the season at home. So what are your takes on this upcoming game on Sunday? I'll start with you, JJ.
I think it's a weird game and a weird spot for both of these teams. The Dolphins coming off a loss to the Bengals. Tua's not going to play, but extra time for Miami to prepare. I'm sure they're going to throw some different looks, some different wrinkles at Zach Wilson. I don't love the status of the Jet offensive line going into the game. But conversely, on the other side of the coin, I don't like that Miami's secondary is all sorts of beat up. Howard dealing with the groin. He was not 100% if you saw him in that Bengal game. I mean, he was hobbling around. He did not have the same look and feel that he normally has. That's problematic. And the Jets have weapons that can exploit in the wide receiver position, whether it's Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios, you name it. So, guys, I think we're going to see points on Sunday. I think we're going to see a lot of offense in this game. I think the total is right around 44. I think the Dolphins will have success against the Jets. I do. I think the speed of the wide receivers is just too much to handle. Mm-hmm. I think the Dolphins will look to run the football, something they have not done a great job of in the first couple of games. And I think Bridgewater could be fine. Look, Teddy Bridgewater over 2 or 3 games, that's a good backup quarterback. I'm not saying I'd want him to be my quarterback the entirety of a season. Right. But Teddy Bridgewater over a couple of games, you saw it with New Orleans. You've seen it with other teams in the past. He does a good job of covering numbers. I think the spot, guys, it's a bad spot for the Jets. Getting the Dolphins off of a loss and getting the Dolphins off of a little extra time to prepare. But Dolphins are not 100% right going in this game. And I think the odds makers have it right. It's a 3.5 point spread. That's exactly what it should be.
Right. And also to piggyback off the safeties, like, yeah, the Dolphins secondary has been, really exactly anything that's, right to write home about. But it's the same thing as also with the Jets. I mean, I know that LaMarcus Joyner had a pretty good game last week, but he's very spotty. Like, one of the things that really scares me is that if he has to go against Tyreek Hill, he's gonna lose that battle 9 times out of 10.
The Dolphins only have 4 healthy cornerbacks going into this game, and it's going to be a real test for those Dolphins. This Byron Jones is killing us. He's hurt, and he suffered a setback. He hasn't played yet this season for the Dolphins, and he's going to be out for like another 21 days, they're saying, before he can even resume football activities.
Right.
Yeah, and Howard's the biggest problem because he's a lockdown number 1 corner, and if he's compromised, I mean, there's no giving, guys. We're taping this on a Wednesday. There's no giving Xavier Howard plays Sunday. I know he wants to. I know he's vowed that he's going to, but no giving he's going to play.
I think this is the biggest Jet game since the last game of the season when they lost to Buffalo with Ryan Fitzpatrick in the
I can't,
2015 finale.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
This Jets crowd is going to be so fired up. I think this is a tough spot for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, the Jet crowd will be into it. There will be a lot of Dolphin fans.
There will be a lot of Dolphin fans there, yes.
Always a lot of Dolphin fans in a Jet-Dolphin game. So it'll be a fun atmosphere, guys. It's going to be a beautiful day. I mean, you're not going to deal with the elements. I'm talking low 60s. Perfect fall October afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. I think listen, let's put it this way. I will not be stunned if the Jets win this game. I'm picking the Dolphins for what it's worth. I think the Dolphins win a tight game, 27-23, 30-24, somewhere along the lines of that. I think there are going to be points in this game. I do. I think there's going to be a lot of offense. Tight game, though, on Sunday. This will not be a blowout.
Will you be at this tailgate Sunday? I'm fired up.
Well, here's the issue. I am doing place your bets from the stadium at 11:30. So I am going to be at the game. I'm going to be bouncing around the game, but I'm going to be kind of bunkered down from like 11:30 to 12, which is like peak tailgating time. So I'll be bouncing around a little bit early, but I got to be, realistically speaking, guys, I got to be in the stadium by like 10:30.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually won't be at the game myself because I don't feel like the Jets deserve my money anytime soon right now. And also I have prior engagements as well with some of my friends, but that's neither here or there. But I do feel we'll be locked into this game no matter what. You can bet your ass that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on my phone the entire time and so on and so forth. But before we put a lid on the game, Zach Wilson looked pretty good. There was a little spotty moments that he had, but this is something that he could definitely build off going forward. What are you guys expecting from Zach Wilson since we're not going to see Tua this week?
I liked what I saw from the second half of Zach Wilson. I thought he was terrific on third down. It was nice to see him make plays in the fourth quarter. The decision-making is still something that is called into question. You saw that in the first half of this game, and he's going to be pressured. Look, the Dolphins are not going to sugarcoat pressure. They are going to blitz. They're going to blitz often. I expect them to blitz even more considering the state of affairs at corner. We're going to say, look, we got to get after the quarterback. We can't be messing around and allowing things to, take place and transpire here. I expect some big plays from the Jets. I also think you're going to see a big mistake or two. I think that is part of the equation here both ways, Jack.
Yeah. How about you?
I definitely didn't expect him to catch a touchdown pass last week and pop the gritty like that. But, I think that this Melvin Ingram for the Dolphins was a fantastic pickup. I liked what I've seen from him for the first 4 weeks, too. I mean, I think he's a good player. He puts pressure. He could put pressure on the quarterback, and he's good with Jalen Phillips there. It's a good to have him there, like kind of the
Dolphins have a good front. You're going to see that in this game, Jay. They have a terrific, terrific front. And when you look at the problems the Jets have had from an offensive line standpoint, not a great matchup. That's where it becomes a problematic matchup for them.
Right. Now, for anybody that's watching right now, you can check out JJ's podcast, New York, streaming everywhere, wherever you get your podcast. You want to do some bets, point spreads, so on and so forth. That's where you can find them. So switching gears here a little bit. I know we only have you for a couple more minutes, but we'll just put a lid on that right now. Kind of want to continue with the format of the show. So me and Rob were actually talking a little bit before, and also I was talking with a friend of mine that there's, going back to the subject of Staten Island, there's always been this stigma that it's always known as the forgotten borough. They always talk about the Staten Island dump, so on and so forth. But yeah, you guys also have Wu-Tang. You guys have the Impractical Jokers, among other things. Why is it that you think that Staten Island has this stigma that it's been having for so many years? Why is it known as the forgotten borough, in your opinion?
That's a great question. It's not the most city borough of the five.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that it's a little bit more, dare I say, suburban, I think that creates a stigma from the city people. Mm-hmm. And, the people in Jersey or in Long Island or, wherever it may be, then they look at Staten Island. They're like, oh, it's not a part of the city, but it's not enough to be a part of the burb. So it's kind of like in no man's land.
Right.
And, listen, it's interesting. Staten Island, the dump, it closed, thank goodness, like 30 years ago. But people will always equate Staten Island to the former landfill on the West Shore Expressway.
Right.
But think about this for a minute. And I know every hometown or every city can kind of like find its own. Mm-hmm. Colin Jost,
Yes, Colin Jost.
Pete
Yes,
Davidson,
Pete Davidson. Yep,
Wu-Tang Clan,
yep.
John Jasremski.
There we go. I was waiting
Just
for that
kidding.
one.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
No.
No, but like Staten Island has done well for itself. Look, the food is great. It's a good melting pot. You have a lot of different. What people don't realize about Staten Island is, yes, there are a lot of Italians, there are a lot of Irish, but you have some great melting pot neighborhoods. You really, really do, because you're basically on the outskirts of New York City. I mean, you're a part of it technically as the fifth borough, but you have a lot of folks from Brooklyn and from Manhattan who want a little bit more space. They come to Staten Island. Then you have folks on Staten Island, when they need more space, they flock to Jersey. That's like that's like the pipeline in many ways. But listen, I love Staten Island. I'm there all the time. I wear it on my sleeve proudly. I'm proud to call it home.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. If me and Rob happen to be in Staten Island and you're not that far from us, and we decided to call you up and say, hey, meet us at Pier 76, what is the best thing to order there?
Oh, the Pier said that. We used to go and have a lot of late night drinks and football excursions there. The pizza is terrific there. Lee's Tavern and Joe and Pat's are my two favorites, full disclosure. Like, if you're getting a slice, that's where I'm going. But the Pier, right across the Staten Island Ferry, I mean, that's a hop, skip, and a jump. You know, you get right back into Manhattan in no time.
Nice. And favorite Wu-Tang member?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Can you give me at least your favorite Wu-Tang song? Make it easier for you.
No, you guys got me. What would you recommend?
Winter War. I like Winter Wars. Is probably my favorite.
What would be? Let me ask
Winter
you guys
Wars
this question: as someone who is not particularly well versed in the music of Wu-Tang Clan, even though I know who they are, what is their most famous song?
I mean, it would have to be either Cream or Triumph. I think you'd have to go Cream or Protect Your Neck.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's off their first album. Yeah.
Now I feel like when I'm driving SNY later, guys, I'm gonna have to listen to a little Wu-Tang, get caught up on my Shaolin history. You know.
There you go, Shaolin. You already know. So how much we got time? All right, so we got a little bit more time here. So we're about to close out this episode in a little bit, but I really thank you for doing this, JJ. This has it's been an honor. I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, and I'm also glad that Rob was willing to make this trip as well on the Zoom. But I love everything that you're doing, man. Keep doing your thing. Hopefully we can do this again. But before I let you go, I just have one more question, and you have a little bit of time on you, so maybe a little bit of a mind thinker, but just deal with me for a second. And this is a question this is a question that I ask everybody that comes on my show, and I'm interested to know what your answer is going to be. And I don't know how much of a movie guy you are, but just bear with me.
Big movie guy.
Okay.
I'm a lot more of a movie guy than a Wu-Tang guy. I can promise you.
Okay. All right. So let's go with this. So you, John Jasremski, if they were to make a movie on your life, which actor would you like to see portray your character, and why?
Wow. That is a fantastic question.
And they don't have to look like you. They don't have to sound like you. It's just somebody that you admire.
I'm going to go with a guy who I think could play me well. Now, the age gap could be problematic. Could be a little problematic. But assuming you give me like 10 or 15 years, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Wow. Oh, good. That's a good one.
I think he would nail, because I think we have some similarities in our persona and our, mannerisms and whatnot. We kind of have that like tall, slender build. So like, for me to have like Leonardo DiCaprio play me, as great an actor as Leo is, he's phenomenal. Tough. Bale's great. I love Bale. But I think Daniel Day-Lewis is the guy I would choose.
That's a great one. And matter of fact, while we have you on here, what about you, Rob? If they were to make a movie on your life, who would you like to see portray you, and why?
Wow, I have not thought about this at all.
Well, they don't have to look like you. They don't have to sound like you. It's just somebody that you admire and you think that they could portray your character to the best of their ability.
Brad Pitt?
Yeah, Brad Pitt would be great, right?
Yeah.
Christian Bale was a good one too.
That's a good one too. Yeah,
he's been
phenomenal actor. He's phenomenal actor.
That's a tough question. I would have to think about that for a minute.
All right, but I love JJ's answer. That's a great one. Nobody said that on the show yet. So
nice. I made history tonight. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah,
that makes me proud.
And I always like to say that I only bring people on this show that I think are first class tier, hence first class, second place. So that should say a lot about you, and also as you, Rob, to being on my show.
Oh, I really appreciate it. This has been an honor, and I really appreciate you having me on as the co-host with JJ, who I've been listening to since he's been on the overnights at WFAN since day one.
Right.
So, I mean, JJ, you've been my favorite host on that show, JJ After Dark. And of course, I'm transitioned to the Ringer podcast, New York is an excellent show as well. And just keep doing what you're doing, man. I mean, you're the best out there, the best there is. You and Joe Beningo, man.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to
another one
Joe
of my
Bing.
favorites.
Mhm.
And that's very kind of you to say, Rob. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And the way that I look at it, Rob, as well, is that it was no problem for me to do this for you because I'm a guy that I feel like I wasn't given a lot of opportunities in life. So let me be the guy that hands out opportunities however way that I can. So being able to sync you up with a guy that you've been looking up to on sports radio for quite some time actually makes my day as well. So I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to have you guys showing on. And JJ, thanks again for doing it, man. I really appreciate you taking the time for this little old podcast that I have in mind. But nevertheless, keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of what you're doing. And, just go from there. So before we get out of here, where can they find you on social media real quick?
Very simple. John_Jasremski on Twitter, JJBombs19 on Instagram. Subscribe to all the podcasts, New York, Ringer Gambling Show, SNY. I think that plugs everything. I mean, I have 10 zillion jobs, so it's tough to plug them off. If I forgot one, I apologize, but thank you guys. Appreciate it.
JJ, before you go, can I ask you a quick Dolphins trivia to kind of set the tone for this week?
Yeah, I like that. Go ahead.
Since nobody really asked you Dolphins trivia, all right? So since I thought of this one myself, since Dan Marino retired, since Dan Marino got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2005, 4 Dolphins have played on the Dolphins after Marino retired in 1999. So the 4 Hall of Famers got inducted after Marino. So 2000.
Let me make sure I have this right.
Right.
4 Hall of Famers inducted after Dan Marino, who played for the Miami Dolphins.
Played for the Miami Dolphins, right?
Some point
after Marino retired in 1999, correct? And they're in the Hall of Fame.
Jason Taylor's 1.
Right.
Junior Seau is 2.
That's 2.
All right, so we got 2 more.
Right.
We got Junior Seau. We got. It's funny. You got to go through. I was about to say Zach Thomas, who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous how he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That's a total travesty.
He has more tackles and forced fumbles than Brian Urlacher too.
Better player, just as good a player as Brian Urlacher. Okay, so we got Jason Taylor. I gave you the second one. Who did I just
Junior
give you?
Seau.
Oh, Junior Seau. There we go. And there's 2 more, huh?
2 more. So they played on the Dolphins after Marino retired in 1999, and they've been inducted into the Hall of Fame after Marino retired as well. And Marino got in he was in the class of 2005. But they played after a very short stint.
About this. Offensive or defensive players?
Okay, so they were both offensive players. The other 2 were missing.
Offensive players.
Yeah.
I got one. Chris Carter.
Chris Carter was on the team in
2002. Who barely was on the
Dolphins.
Dolphins. Was on the Dolphins for like a cup of coffee for like 3 games.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And then I'm missing one more guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive player, huh?
Yep.
Should I know? Am I going to be mad I don't know this?
Not really. He was also on the team for a cup of coffee, basically. And I'll give you the year.
I know. Thurman Thomas.
He got it.
That's my cue to leave, boys. That's my cue. Going out on a high note.
Yeah. All right, JJ, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time. And, guys, check him out on New York, The Ringer, everywhere you get your podcast. Check him out on SNY, and hopefully we could do this again in the future.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it. Later.
Yeah. Thanks so much, JJ. Really appreciate it.
See you guys.
You're welcome. Take care, man. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Enrique _ on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to follow the First Class Second Place podcast page on Instagram as well. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.